James Morrow here, and I'm going to read the second half of the first chapter from my satiric novel in progress, Those Who Favor Fire, from the Robert Frost poem. The subject is climate change, and our hero is middle-aged Eamon Keane, a former political speechwriter who one night shares a Chinese meal in a Manhattan restaurant with his fellow fiction workshop participant, Dahlia Zettel. During their dinner, Eamon and Dahlia have a strange encounter with a fortune cookie, and as a result of its machinations, they end up back at his apartment in Lenox Hill. Chapter 1: The Moon and the Manticore. And that was how they found themselves pacing fretfully around Eamon's sixth-floor apartment in the venerable Amsterdam Arms. Although he'd recently broken his last wine glass, Dahlia saved the day by noting that many Italian restaurants in New York honored mother country traditions by serving the vino in ordinary tumblers. While Dahlia sipped her Merlot from a Gandalf the Grey beer stein left behind by the previous tenant, Eamon used a plastic Captain Paradox cup he'd bought for $0.25 at a sidewalk sale. Resting in an empty candy dish, the magic fortune cookie from the Foo Dog shared the coffee table with an open bottle of Yellowtail, now largely consumed. A month earlier, Eamon had transformed the entrance hallway into a gallery of framed photographs, documenting his marginally glamorous life. Every time Dahlia wandered past the exhibition, she alighted on a different photo and attempted to identify the political celebrity posing beside Eamon. "Is that Susan Collins?" "Uh-huh." "You wrote speeches for the Queen of Calculation?" "One speech." "What about the amazing Kamala Harris?" "I was with her for a year. 5 speeches." True to its final message, the cookie emitted 3 discrete, high-pitched sounds, not the promised chimes exactly, more like a tiny bell being rung at the excommunication of a negligible priest. Eamon pulled out the protruding blank slip, retrieved the next fortune, and glanced at the message. He decided not to let Dahlia see it. "The woman will get angry at you." "That looks like the endlessly opportunistic Marco Rubio," said Dahlia. "I wrote only 2 speeches for him, but he was quite pleased. I made him seem compassionate, even though he favored deporting the grown children of illegal immigrants." "There's no such thing as an illegal human being, Eamon." "Below Rubio, you'll see me with Adam Schiff. Great guy. He didn't need me. Writes better than I do." "You're all over the map, aren't you?" "I'm a wordsmith, not an ideologue." "And here we have the late unlamented Orville Bovine. Good God! Was it you who had him say all that crap about the country losing its competitive edge to tree mongers, bug huggers, and squid kissers?" "Tree worshippers, actually." "Black." "None of that was my personal opinion. The president was having trouble putting his thoughts into words, so the gods of rhetoric and I did what the situation required." "The gods of rhetoric? What kind of malarkey is that?" "I live by a code." "Hey, this is a great shot of you standing next to the tall man with the pointy beard and the goat horns and the pitchfork." Hardy har har, Eamon retrieved the next fortune. "The woman will decide your worldview is sophistic." "You know what I think?" said Dahlia. "I think your worldview is sophistic." Dahlia yanked the slip out of his hand, read it, and chuckled nervously. "The philosophers in question have gotten a bum rap," Eamon insisted, recalling his senior thesis, Listening to Reason, Proto-Empiricism in Pre-Socratic Thought. The sophists weren't sophistic, just as the cynics weren't cynical, the hedonists weren't hedonistic, and the Epicureans weren't epicures. The sophists merely taught a non-Aristotelian way of being in the world. Hooray for them! I don't mean to sound pedantic. I was a double major in journalism and expediency? Philosophy. My cup runneth empty. I'm on the job. Before Eamon could either replenish Dahlia's wine or retrieve the next fortune, someone knocked on the door. His stomach imploded. Dr. Ongst clutched his heart. The speechwriter shuffled down the hallway, undid the latch, and admitted a pale, gnomish, vaguely androgynous young man wearing a tawny fur jacket with matching trousers. His eyes were blue and sad. He looked like an elf who'd just been fired by Santa Claus. "We've been expecting you," said Eamon. "How so?" The morose visitor removed his hat, an alpaca chulo featuring ear flaps tied with cords ending in pom-poms. Sweat speckled his brow. "A message in a fortune cookie." Eamon indicated the stale pastry in the candy dish. "Please explain the trick to us." "Fortune cookie? Trick? What are you talking about?" The visitor's voice was shrill and agitated, a slide whistle on amphetamines. "Please give me a serious answer. Why were you expecting—" "A little bird told me." "We'll drop the matter for now." "Why didn't you call first or email me or—" "A knock on the door leaves no digital trace." The visitor removed his fur jacket and laid it aslant the ottoman along with his hat. "I should have worn lighter clothes. Where I come from, the average temperature is 10 below zero." "Celsius?" asked Eamon. "Yes, Mr. Keene. I'd like a nice cool glass of Celsius." "I'm talking about the temperature scale." My knowledge of your world is spotty. We use the Moritz scale. I am Tully Horvath." Dahlia said, "And where exactly do you—" "From a parallel plane." "I don't believe you." "I don't blame you." "Is your planet nearby?" asked Eamon. "I said plane," admonished Tully Horvath. "I hail from the United Metropolises of Quandonia, the UMQ, a human civilization occupying the interior surface of our planet's crust, known only to a few select members of your ruling classes. We shall now observe a moment of silence, during which you will try to digest the indigestible fact I just presented." 60 wordless seconds elapsed. Eamon felt dizzy but stayed upright. Was he losing his mind? Did the food dog in fact use MSG? Was this lunatic really from some preposterous Saturday matinee serial underground kingdom? "So the hollow earth theory is correct?" said Eamon. "It's not just one of those goofy ideas my ex-wife writes about?" "We think of ourselves as concavians," said Tully, nodding. "From your point of view, Quandonians live upside down on the lithosphere we share with you, 20 miles thick. Our two civilizations bracket the crust like bookends." "Whereas, by your reckoning, we're the inverted ones?" said Dahlia. "Exactly." "If you're concavians, then are we convexians?" asked Dahlia. "The convexians of the fractious nations of solar side." "My father was a geologist. He wouldn't buy your story." "It's not for sale. Are you Mr. Keene's wife?" His Bashert fantasy. Dahlia Zettel, recovering academic and accomplished divorcee. "But if Quandonians walk upright on the undercrust, where do you get your gravity?" asked Eamon. "Same place as you solar siders, the astonishingly dense pangluteus layer." "The what?" said Dahlia. "The cookie spoke of a writing assignment," said Eamon. "It told me my words might help end the suffering of millions. People, I assume, not chipmunks." 20 million Quandonians, to be precise, give or take 100,000. Tully pulled a handkerchief from his trousers pocket and swabbed his brow. "I am the Chancellor of our Prime Minister, Willem Crickort, who lives in our capital city of Vamusvec and presides over all of Quandonia." Mr. Crickart greatly admires a speech you composed for your President Bovine when he was alive. You argued that there's an excellent chance that global warming will correct itself." "These days Eamon would never write such nonsense," said Dahlia, declining eye contact with the speechwriter. "If not a glass of Celsius, how about some of that kangaroo juice?" said Tully, pointing to the bottle of Yellowtail. "Sure," said Eamon. "We also have leftover Chinese." "Expatriates?" "Cuisine." "No thanks." Eamon retreated to the kitchen, uncorked the second bottle of Yellowtail, and grabbed the presidential seal coffee mug he'd stolen from the White House after a heated argument with Bovine. Fastened to the refrigerator door was a photo of his border collie, Flick, who'd died of cancer shortly before the boss pulled up stakes and moved to Manhattan. Flick had stared directly at the camera, and now she seemed to be saying, from beyond the grave, "This troglodyte is not to be trusted. Keep an eye on him." Eamon chewed a tablet from his antacid stash and returned to the living room, wine bottle in hand. "Down in Quandonia we have a climate crisis of our own," said Tully, receiving his mug of Merlot. "Global cooling," said Dahlia, as Eamon refilled her Gandalf Stein. "Freezing, actually. Ours is a world of ice-choked seas, advancing glaciers, and ever-expanding tundra. Minister Crickart needs your help convincing our parliament to embrace a plan almost certain to relieve Quandonia's anguish. He's prepared to pay $500,000 for your eloquence." "Dollars." "Chipmunks." "How's that?" "A joke. Perhaps the first one I ever made. We're not a fun civilization." "Will I have to learn your language?" asked Eamon. "English is our lingua franca. You'd be surprised how much we've appropriated from Solarside. Our people are forbidden to travel to the overcrust, so they collect your customs and tchotchkes instead. In Quandonia, that Gandalf Stein and the Captain Paradox tumbler would be status symbols." "Will I have to change planets? Surfaces?" "For about a month." "A small fortune. The salvation of 20 million fellow humans. Take that, Dr. Ongst." "Very well. I accept the assignment." Eamon retrieved 4 more paper slips, glanced at the messages, and passed them to Dahlia. "You will accept the assignment. The woman will announce she's coming along. The visitor will say he's not authorized to bring back more than 1 topsider." "By the way, I'm coming along," said Dahlia. "No, you're not." "I beg to differ." "I'm not authorized to bring more than 1 topsider back with me." "I have an insatiable craving for adventure," said Dahlia. "Since when?" said Eamon. "Since hearing about the United Metropolises of Quandonia. I'm in love with the place, sight unseen." "If Dr. Zettel doesn't go below, then neither do I," said Eamon, at once shocked, bewildered, and gratified by his pronouncement. "How do you like them apples, Mr. Horvat?" said Dahlia, beaming at Eamon. "You're not in the budget." "For the pleasure of Dr. Zettel's company, I'm willing to do a 50-50 split," said Eamon. "Are you serious?" "Are you serious?" Was he serious? "I'm not a reliably serious person, but I meant what I said. 50-50. "Such a mensch," said Dahlia. "The Prime Minister will be unhappy." "Bite me," said Dahlia. "I'm a writer, too. The Prime Minister will be thrilled." "Very well, Dr. Zettel. You may consider yourself a provisional member of the Public Information Committee," said Tully, pulling on his fur jacket. "And now we're all going to go gaze upon the handiwork of our technocrats who have recently wrought some improvements in the moon." By the time they arrived On the roof of the Amsterdam Arms, a baby blanket of snow lay on the terrace. A scattering of flakes drifted aimlessly through the dark December air, as if wondering where to land. Stars bloomed among the clouds above Lenox Hill. Sheltered beneath a white plastic canopy set on aluminum poles, a telescope stood beside the northern parapet. Eamon needed no such instrument to know that something had gone drastically wrong with the moon. Earth's stately satellite had turned red as a beet. Despite its complete lack of atmosphere, it appeared to be on fire. Since fifth grade, he'd known about the so-called blood moons that occurred during total lunar eclipses, but this was something else entirely. "What the hell did you do to it?" demanded Dahlia. "Our technocratic elite, the Neurocon Guild, has restored the moon to an earlier epoch, when the interior mantle was molten and volcanism ruled the surface." Tully gestured toward the telescope, inviting Eamon to look closer. "The project has been 6 months in development. About an hour ago, the chief Neurocon threw the metaphorical master switch with dramatic results, as you can see." "As we can see, and as billions of stargazing solar-siders can also see," said Dahlia. "I would predict worldwide panic in a matter of days, maybe hours." "If overcrusters lose their minds when confronted with a simple blood moon, that's their leader's problem, not Quandonia's." "But it's not a blood moon," whined Eamon. "Because most solar-siders are too scientifically illiterate to appreciate the difference between a natural phenomenon and a deliberate act of synaptokinesis, we've been advising your leaders to start pushing the blood moon narrative. It's so much simpler." Eamon peered into the eyepiece and gawked at the violent lunar spectacle. From pole to pole, hundreds of extinct volcanoes now flourished, while the surrounding impact craters were rapidly filling with molten rock. "Behold the waves of lava flowing across those dead gray zones solar-side astronomers presciently called seas," narrated the Chancellor. "Mere serenities, mere fecundities, mere tranquillitates." "Those Neurocons of yours must have supernatural powers," said Dahlia, nudging Eamon away from the telescope. "Actually, they're die-hard materialists. Over the centuries, they've learned how to harness their brains' electrochemical impulses to transmogrify normal molecular arrangements." "So they revulcanized the moon through psychic energy alone?" Dahlia availed herself of the telescope. "They dislike the word psychic, which tends to indicate some quasi-mystical realm. Synaptokinesis is all about brain tissue, not spoon-bending." "For many millennia," the Chancellor elaborated, "his world had remained temperate, thanks to the manticore, the term Quandonians employed when considering Earth's encapsulated molten mantle, seething outer core, and hard crystalline inner core collectively. Year by year, season by season, day by day, the goddess Bonita, avatar of the manticore, had bestowed her benevolence on all 12 city-states, but then, gradually, but inexorably, Bonita sickened. Her radiance faded, and a perpetual winter came to the undercrust." "The manticore," muttered Dahlia. "Another appropriation." "We have no shame. A hybrid creature out of Greek mythology, as I recall, half man, half bull." "It's from Persian mythology, actually," said Eamon, "a kind of sphinx with a scorpion's tail." "The causes of Bonita's cooling are many, various, and irreversible. As Minister Crickcourt's overpaid speechwriters, all you need to know is that one day a delegation from the Neurocon Guild presented him with an ingenious solution to our climate crisis, despite his initial resistance to Operation Moon Swap. He soon came to love it, though he predicted correctly that Parliament would push back. Moon Swap, muttered Dahlia, making no effort to purge her voice of suspicion. It sounds ambitious. True enough, ever since even some Neurocon Guild members find it daunting. I can't imagine what moon swap means, said Eamon. I can, and I shudder, said Dahlia. What's your guess? Your Neurocons hope to somehow extract the dying manticore from the center of the Earth and replace it with this vulcanized moon, thereby restoring heat to Quandonia. Bullseye, Dr. Zedel. You definitely belong on the Public Information Committee. But solar siders need the moon, Eamon protested. Without it, we'll lose our tides and a shield against meteors. How dare you hijack it? Even as Quandonia receives your former satellite, Bonita will go into orbit around the Earth. The manticore and the moon are nearly identical in diameter and mass. You'll still have your tides, your meteor defenses, your song lyrics. The environmentalists I follow online are suspicious of climate engineering, and this sounds like climate engineering on stilts, said Dahlia. Their argument being that hypothetical techno-fixes distract us from the tough challenge of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Let me suggest you find different environmentalists to follow. Concavians worship Bonita, said Dahlia, visibly angry now. Convexians once worshipped Selene, and now you people mean to defile both goddesses. Defile? Such an ugly word. We prefer deconsecrate. To keep from fainting, Eamon stomped his way around the terrace, raising plumes of snow. To the east, the Chrysler Building stood poised like an Art Deco rocket on its launch pad. In the streets below, arrays of Christmas lights twinkled red, green, amber, blue, and white, as if the city, sensing an approaching storm, had wrapped itself in a luminous coat of many colors. He returned to the telescope in time to hear Dahlia say, Do solar side leaders know about this crazy swap of yours? Do they understand the extremity of what you're planning? The ones who matter are all in the loop. When they first heard about the scheme, they must have become hysterical, said Eamon. True enough, but then we offered them a reason to acquiesce. What possible reason? Meet me on Friday morning, 8 o'clock sharp, under the Pershing Bridge outside Grand Central, said Tully. Don't bother with electronics, no internet service below, no charging stations, and we don't like having our pictures taken. He pulled a sheet of folded paper from his jacket pocket and passed it to Eamon. Here's a checklist of necessities a Convexian should pack for an undercrust trip. Don't worry about the first item, trading goods. I'll take care of that. You needn't bring your Captain Paradox cup. Dahlia took a snapshot of the checklist with her cell phone. Am I to surmise your world runs on a bartering economy? We have a medium of exchange, Vorpals they're called, but most people prefer solar side artifacts. The average Quandonian's infatuation with your civilization is so intense that a booby doll or a Spider-Man beach towel will pay the rent for months. Barbie, said Dahlia. I once swapped a set of Pokemon trading cards for a steam-powered automobile. Helping to end the suffering of millions, muttered Eamon. It's a distinct possibility. Dress warmly. Thank you. That's the end of Chapter 1.